All right, welcome to the podcast. This is SamuraiBlitzt. We're here with Jessica Watkins. She is a veteran, badass American J6er, also in the Gulag in Washington, D.C., and we're here to have a conversation with her and see what she has to tell us. So, a lot of good stuff. I've seen some of your interviews, and I want to thank you for being on the podcast.
No problem. Happy to be here.
All right, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, let's see. I'm a 42-year-old woman. I fought in the Army. Was in Afghanistan in 2002 with 1st Ranger Battalion. After the Army, I became a firefighter, EMT. I volunteered with the Red Cross during Hurricane Ike. During the BLM riots, I was working with the Oath Keepers to protect businesses, work with law enforcement, coordinate with the locals. I ended up providing medical attention to numerous injured Black Lives Matter protesters, actually. So I've just got a history of service, and that's kind of what brought me to the Capitol building on January 6th.
Awesome. I did want to ask because I for the people that actually look up Oath Keepers, it'll say this far right, crazy people. Could you give us a little insight on what are the Oath Keepers? What do they believe in? And also, how did you get involved with them?
Sure. So that's kind of like a pejorative term that the left has thrown around.
Yeah.
Just trying to slander us, basically. The Oath Keepers have always been like a volunteer group. We don't break laws. We coordinate with local law enforcement, with EMS and things. And so our job is usually just to make things better for everyone, including, we de-escalate tensions whenever left-wing protesters show up. We don't like to antagonize anybody. We're all made out of veterans and firefighters, EMTs, former law enforcement. And so when there's a natural disaster or something, we respond to those things. We'll coordinate with National Guard or whoever law enforcement's on scene, and just try to smooth things out. We got a lot of attention because of the Black Lives Matter protests. We had numerous businesses that had contracted us because they had been vandalized and had their properties burned and so forth. So they asked for us to come out, seeing how we're a volunteer force. We don't charge any money. And so we come out and we do that on a volunteer basis, which is kind of what happened on January 6th. We were there on a contract. We had a permit. We had credentials. We ran background checks with Secret Service. And we're there as a beneficial force to help people out. And on the case of January 6th, we were there to protect congressmen and VIPs and to protect the crowd from Antifa likes to show up and hurt people.
Yes.
So a lot of what we do there is protecting people after the rally is over, getting them back to their cars, getting them back to their hotels.
Okay. I did see that you were actually on you were doing a job, right? And you were a medic in the you were a paratrooper in the service, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
And then you were a medic in the fire department?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So I did have a question. It's man, so what are some things that you've seen in the BLM and Antifa kind of protests and stuff, or I'm gonna call them riots because that's what they are a lot of times.
Sometimes,
what are some things that you've seen in your time being a medic and being involved in those kind of things?
Well, the first one we went to, my fiance and I, we went down there just as medics. This is before we actually joined the Oath Keepers. And they were throwing objects at the police line. They across the street from us, they set an autism center on fire. Yeah. One girl had a fire extinguisher and was smashing out the windows. And before she did that, she ran up to me. I had a Black Lives Matter protester who had a broken nose. The police actually fire these grenade launcher things with wooden bullets. They're these big wooden bullets. They shoot into the street and they kind of just skip off the street and they fly wherever they go. And there's this 16-year-old girl that had her face smashed by one of these things. So I'm sitting there. I was treating her. Because I was a medic, so I'm sitting there bandaging her up and trying to help her out. And this girl, this Black Lives Matter rider, comes up and sprays me in the face with a fire extinguisher. And I threw up for days after that. I was just throwing up this powder stuff. And then she took the extinguisher and she started smashing out the windows with it. And like my fiance had his face cut with flying glass. They were throwing fireworks at the cops. I mean, sometimes it's crazy. When I was in Louisville, Kentucky, for the Breonna Taylor indictments, there's two police officers about 4 blocks away from us that actually were shot by the mob. And they chased the ambulances down and chased the ambulances all the way to the hospital and said they were going to burn the hospital down and finish the job. And I mean, things you wouldn't like, way worse than anything that I ever saw on January 6th. And that's why it's so crazy to me that like they made such a big deal about it.
Yes, and it's just an ideology, you know. There's no real leader in all this. Yeah, it's insane. I mean, just terroristic behavior from them. I've seen it over and over on videos. I've never seen it firsthand. That's why I was really curious to see what you have seen. So wow, so you've been involved in a lot of like these kind of rallies and protests.
Correct. Yes, I went to a total of 9 days of Black Lives Matter. Sometimes they're peaceful. Sometimes they're completely peaceful. We link up with local law enforcement and they say, hey, you're not needed. You know, we've got this. And you look around and nothing's happening. You're like, cool, see ya. And then other times it's like the cops will come up and say, hey, they're coming. We need you to like, if just keep your eyes out on this spot, that'd be great. And so you're like, Roger that, officer. And like, off they go, and they're off to do their duties and we have ours. And so like we've had Antifa trying to blind us with lasers and throwing Molotov cocktails at like gas stations. It's pretty incredible, frankly.
Yeah, and there's no accountability for it either. I mean, so many of them are, and I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you remember, but I remember when the media was trying to paint them as like, oh, when you make fun of Antifa, you're making fun of people of color. It's like most of them are white.
They're
kids,
white.
you know? Yeah,
They're a bunch of nerdy white kids that live in their mom's basement.
exactly. That's why I remember I had when I had heard that, I was like, are they fucking insane? Like a bunch of white kids with purple and blue hair, you know?
Well, they did the same thing during the Kyle Rittenhouse thing. They're like, oh, he's just a racist, blah blah blah. Like literally, all 3 people he shot were white.
And there were like child molesters and
right, like that showed up and started using the N-word and all sorts of crazy things. Like really.
You would think they would be outraged by hearing a white guy use the N-word and nothing, man. As long as you're on the right side, as long as you're on the right side of what they think is correct, you could do whatever the hell you want. You would be surprised how much racist shit I get from lefties when I
would not be surprised.
Oh yes, you would not be surprised. But the shit that they tell me, because I don't fit the mold, right? I'm Hispanic, and they're like, no, there's no way you could think this way. Like, you know, Trump hates your people. Like, what are you talking about? I'm American. He loves America.
Right.
Like, I don't know what you're getting at. But
so this is probably a good time to bring up the fact that I am a transgender woman. I transitioned 22 years ago. So I get it. I get it.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. So it's been a big part of your life for sure.
100%. But the identity politics, as soon as they find out you're something like, you know, like to me, it's like, I think of it as like coffee, right? Like, you are not the mug, you are the coffee that's inside, right? So yeah, you're Hispanic. So, I mean, are you a good person? That's really all that matters. Like, it's like who you are inside. It's not like the flesh. I mean, it's like, it's just a coffee mug, right? You can make coffee with mop water and put it in an awesome coffee mug and it would taste like shit. So,
fuck yeah. I mean, that's a great analogy. Yeah. And it's true. Yeah. You can't judge somebody by the way they look on the outside. It's
right.
How they treat
that's how the left does. It's all they care about is the coffee mug. They don't care what's inside of it, you know? So for us as conservatives, we don't give 2 shits about identity politics. I'm not trying to be a token anything. I'm just trying to be a good American. So, I mean,
that's exactly what it is. Yeah, you don't have to put us in a little box, you know? Like,
right.
And that's the thing I always see about lefties is they just march in lockstep with whatever is the new outrage or the new good thing of the day. And there's so many people like, oh, well, what about when Trump did this? And I'm like, yeah, I didn't agree with that. I think that was not a good move. And we can think for ourselves when they just have to like all you know, match their ideologies and their thinking. And it's like, bro, y'all are like, that's a cult.
It's a cult. It
Yeah.
really is. And they can't even, they squabble amongst themselves. As soon as one person comes out and says, well, maybe electric cars aren't great because they keep catching fire, that's it. That you crossed the line, it's too far. And it's like this with every single thing. They are very much a cult. Like,
Dude,
no,
it's
like
bad. It's bad.
as soon as somebody breaks lockstep with the agenda, you know, they talk about like anything like, oh man, I don't know if we should abort a baby at, you know, 9 months. They're like, you're a heretic. And they act like, you know, you know, do an exorcism on you and throw you out of the cult. You have to
It's
be
like,
with the hardcore. You can't be like, you know, like you can't have any wiggle room. You have to 100% fall in line with the entire agenda, or else they, you know, they excommunicate you.
yeah, it's like it reminds me of like Scientology, man. They're just like, if you do not fall in within these lines, you gotta like you're out. The family will abandon
Right.
you. Everybody will, and it's just extreme Marxism, you know. I mean, it's just like
Well, and
mass.
it's definitely become that. So the left, a lot of like, so there's this phrase that I heard. I don't know if you've ever heard of Chris Plant, but he always used to say, you know, if you're not a liberal in your 20s, you have no heart. But if you're not a conservative by your 40s, you have no brain.
Brain, yeah,
Yeah, right.
that's a great saying, for sure.
So
Yeah,
like a
man.
lot of people, these kids, you know, they're just well-meaning. You know, they're like, man, I love the planet. I don't want to destroy these habitats, and you know, like I want to have free choice. And it sounds all very good. And then these Marxist professors, when they go to college, they just latch onto their good meaning and they just fill them with this socialist garbage and pervert the intention that they originally had. Like I had spoken to somebody who was very, very liberal when she was in her 20s. She was like, yeah, I ended up, you know, like I was into PETA, you know, I didn't want to protect animals. And I found myself doing some very Antifa type shit because they radicalized her.
How dare you?
How
Yeah.
dare you?
And I was a teacher for a long time in high school, and the shit that they teach these kids, man, and that's why I got out of it, because like they wanted me to teach one time, put on the board oppressors, oppressees, right? And they wanted to put oppressors, they wanted to put white people, and I taught at a, like, you know, at an all Hispanic and African American school, but there was a couple of white people. I had about, like, you know, 2 white kids per each class, and I was like, I'm not teaching that shit.
Like who's oppressing you at this point? Like,
Yeah, that's a terrible thing to teach. You know, like, why would you do that to somebody? And how uncomfortable are those white kids gonna be? Like, what? I didn't do nothing. You know, like,
right.
I'm just here trying to learn with the rest of you motherfuckers. Like, no. Mm.
I
But
completely
but yeah, so that's interesting. I mean, all the stuff that you've seen. I love hearing like those kind of stories, because it tells the truth on what's really going on in those rallies, because they always make it sound the radical right, right? It's always the right that's so radical, but it's the left that's, I mean, extremely violent and radical to me.
right, exactly. And like so at the Trump rallies, I went to, let's see, 5 or 6 of those during the Stop the Steal rallies. And yeah, Antifa would show up with, you know, weapons, strutting around. Um, during the Million MAGA March, which was November 14th, that was in Washington, D.C., they waited for the Trump supporters to leave. And then they ambushed people. They were pepper spraying little children and like punching little old ladies in the face and burning their flags and stuff. And that's how the Oath Keepers were getting involved. Because we started showing up and saying, these people are vulnerable. We have to protect them, you know, like, because the cops weren't doing it. So, I mean, that's ultimately what the Oath Keepers, they did it for another DC rally, like I think it was December 12th. And they just escorted people. That 4 Proud Boys were stabbed in like a mass stabbing incident by Antifa. They like rushed them when they came out of a bar and like stabbed them up. So like it was a very volatile time.
Yeah, that sounds terrible. So are the Oath Keepers, are y'all real close with the Proud Boys, or not?
I had never met a Proud Boy before I went to jail.
Oh, okay. So you met a few in the jail.
A couple of them, yeah.
Oh, so I want to kind of go into that. So you were a medic. You were like in like kind of basically security, and also helping out with people getting hurt.
Right.
How was it? Like, what was the attitudes in the Trump rally, and then like what led you to get to the Capitol, and you went inside, I'm assuming, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And how did all that go down?
So our job was to escort congressmen and like VIPs, podcasters, people like you actually, to get from the ellipse. So the president gave his speech at the White House ellipse, which is this big circular venue in front of the White House. Between the White House and the Washington Monument, there's just this big venue where a lot of presidents give speeches. So our job was to escort congressmen and VIPs from the ellipse down to the Capitol building. There was stage sound equipment, Capitol Police okayed it. Like we had everything was above board. So that was what we were there to do. So I was on the security detail to escort the congressman initially. And I was there as a medic. So, a lot of the boys, they were doing the security work, and I was just there to slap on the bandages if need be. And so that was what we came to do. I mean, that was what we were on contract to do. We had credentials and everything. And so the crowd was really positive. Like everybody, I mean, it was like, I don't know, it was like 4th of July on steroids. It was amazing. Super beautiful. It was like one of the best days of my life at that point. It was amazing. I got to see my president's speech like right up front, basically. I was like between the media and the president. Like that's how close we were.
That's awesome.
Really cool. Yeah. And then at the end of the president's speech, we went and we met up with the event staff, and they kind of gave us the parameters. They're like, okay, you got to get these these congressmen or whatever from this spot to this spot. Don't let anybody talk to them. No autographs. We're like, okay, got it, cool. The problem was that all our equipment was outside. Secret Service didn't let us bring our equipment in. So we're like, hey, we got to go get our equipment. And then if you want, you can just come meet us out there. And they're like, okay, no problem. And that's when everything started falling apart, basically. So we were outside getting our equipment on. I mean, it was so close that like everybody's crunched up. Like there's nowhere to move. Like it'd take you like 10 minutes to walk 5 feet. So like, because there's just way too many people. I mean, I stood up on my seat at one point and I looked around, and it was just like a sea of humanity, like being in the middle of an ocean like on a canoe. There was so many people. I was just like, I mean, like I would say way over 1 million people. Like it was a lot. And it was all like crunched. So like it was very
Mike told me that. Yeah, he did tell me that it was he's been to many concerts and he's never seen that many people. So
it was amazing.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so it took us a while to get back to our gear, and so the congressman ended up leaving without us. And anyway, so we were waiting for the VIPs, and that's when it came out. I guess I don't know how it really came out, but everybody like pulled their phones out and they were like, Pence betrayed us, he fucked us, like it's over. And like everybody like took off. Like it was like the streets went from like crunched like this to like you could put your arms out and there's like room all over. So we're sitting there like looking at our watch, anytime now, we've got to get this job done. And so like the crowd took off, and eventually we took what podcasters we had and we escorted them. Kenny Harrelson and Jason Dolan went first. They brought a group out, and then whenever the rest came out, me and Kelly Meggs and all of us, we brought the rest of them, and we just escorted them to the Capitol building. And I mean, it was cool. I mean, it was so cool. There was flags everywhere. Everybody was just like, and you could just see the Capitol in the distance, and everybody was just like converging on it. But everybody was like, the attitude was so positive. Everybody was having so much fun. I mean, it was literally the most beautiful thing in my life.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I mean, unfortunately, I could never go back because Trump can't run again, right? So I never got to go to a Trump rally, but I've heard nothing but great things about it, and so that sounds amazing. So you heard Mike Pence fucked us, all this stuff. So the attitude completely shifts at that point, or it's still
it kind of did, but everybody was still pretty like upbeat, like it still felt like a rally. It didn't feel like a protest. Like when I think of protest, everybody's like chanting and they're kind of pissed off, right? It wasn't like that. It was still very much people chanting USA, and we were chanting "fuck Antifa."
I'm with you.
Right. But I mean, I pulled out my phone at one point. I had like a little app. I was talking with my buddy, and I was like, he's like, how many people here? I was like, all million of us, bro. Like, there's so many people. I was like, the cops aren't even stopping us. It's amazing. Like,
That's
yeah. But anyway, so we got there. We filmed the whole event of us. Well, not the whole time, but I filmed us when we were escorting our VIPs, and we got to the Capitol, and we're like, cool, man. Like, so we dropped off our podcasters, and we're like, all right, job's complete. Let's go check it out. Let's see what's going on. And we walked up the stairs. There's a famous picture of the Oath Keepers walking in single file up the stairs, and I was in that group. And they called it like a tactical stack formation and all this stuff. We walked up the stairs, turned around, and started singing the national anthem and smoking cigarettes and filming. Like, no, there wasn't like no tactical formation. Like,
yeah, it's like they try to put too much symbolism in any little thing, right? It's like when I watched the Super Bowl recently, the halftime show, they're like, Kendrick Lamar, he stepped to the left instead of the right. It's like, dude, you're giving him way too much credit.
Right.
I know
you think he's plotting all this out?
You have too much time in your fucking hands, guys. I calm down.
Right.
But I could imagine, them looking at you in formation and thinking, oh my God, this is a tactical play that they're putting on the web.
You have to like crop the video to make it work like that. Like if you look at the whole video, you're like, oh, this is nothing here. But it was very malicious. Oh, and you have to cut the audio out too. You can't play the audio. So like when they do it, they'll like cut the video and then they'll like put in scary music. You're like, what the?
It's all they just have fucking and with the nice creepy music.
Right.
So when you got there, you were already being let in, from what I heard, right? It was already the kind of like people walking in.
It was like all the stuff that you see from the news and stuff that had happened an hour before we got there. We didn't even have any idea any of it had happened. At some point, somebody in the crowd said something about like pepper balls or whatever. They were shooting the pepper ball guns or whatever and like throwing flashbangs. But I mean, we didn't see any of that. Like the only cops I saw were just kind of just hanging out, just standing there with their little nightsticks looking bored. So, and nobody was giving them any trouble, or they were just thanking them for their service or whatever. They were just kind of just hanging out. Yeah. And when we walked up to the top of the stairs, everybody was just walking in. We're like, okay, let's go check this out. You know, I really regret going inside because that was not, they used that against us so hard.
So do you regret going inside because of what happened, or do you regret it like as in you thought it was just the wrong thing to do?
A little bit of both. I regret it because they used it so insidiously, for starters. They just weaponized it, right? If we just stayed on the steps and kept singing and smoking cigarettes, yeah, they still probably would have charged us. And we could have done the good things that we did. I rescued numerous hurt people on January 6th. I stopped vandalism when I was inside. I am proud of that.
How did that go down?
So it was when I first walked in there, I was kind of just checking out the paintings. I'm like, right on, this is pretty badass. And like, I'm just wandering around and everybody's like, everybody's singing glory, glory, hallelujah. And it was just a really cool, fun environment. And then I walked down a hallway and like, I heard glass break and I like immediately like flipped out. So like, I looked and I seen somebody and I was like, hey, this is the taxpayer's house. This is my fucking house. If you're going to fuck it up, I'm going to fuck you up. And they looked at me and they're like, oh, I'm sorry. And they like bolted and took off running. I'm like, that's cool, man. And then so I popped back out into the rotunda, which is like the big dome. There's a big room in there with all them famous paintings of like George Washington getting sworn in the first time and crossing the Delaware and all them cool old paintings that you see in history books. They're all there in the rotunda. It's badass. So I'm just checking it out, and there's a famous video of me. I had my helmet on and all this stuff, right? And so like my buddy's like filming himself. He's like, we're in the Capitol, and I seen him, and I'm like, so I ran over to him. And I just kind of like photobombed his video, and I'm like, we're in the fucking Capitol, bro. Like,
and I'm sure they used that against you.
So hard. That video, they used it in the January 6th Select Committee everywhere, literally everywhere.
Yeah, I can imagine. I was gonna say, I'm sure they use that. Like, look at this insurrectionist. You know,
insurrectionist.
Yeah.
But if you look at me, like if you watch the whole video, you can see I'm just like checking out paintings. I'm like, this is cool, man. Like, whatever.
It's like,
It was all so disingenuous, you know, like they just kind of like they had their story and they're going to stick to it and they're going to alter the videos or whatever they needed to do to make it fit.
exactly. And it's, I mean, yeah, I would have been like you, man. It'd be like being in one of the best museums I've ever been in. Like, holy shit,
Right.
look at this, look at this. I would have been
Right.
like a little kid, like
Right.
pictures and shit.
Right.
Especially if I found one of my friends, like somebody I knew there, I'd be like, "You're what the fuck?" Or like, you know, like,
You
listen,
have no idea where I am right now.
hey, I'll pin my location, motherfucker. Come meet me. You know, that is insane. So you went in, you just everything was it was kind of peaceful. You stopped somebody an asshole from wrecking the house. Everything else happened, and how did you end up leaving? Like you stayed, how long were you there, and what made you like, all right, let's go?
So I wandered back down that hallway. There was a lot of people going in there. They were chanting, and it was more protest like than celebratory. Like in the rotunda, everybody was kind of just celebrating, you know, like but people who were going down the hallway were like chanting. And so we followed them. We're like, okay, let's see where they're headed off to. And we went in there and people were, I mean, there was a lot of stuff. It was peaceful stuff where they're like, USA, USA, you know, chanting a lot of stuff like that. But there was a lot of like, and I kind of get this point where I got swept up in it, like, because they were chanting like, fuck McConnell. And I'm like, yeah, fuck that guy, the stupid tail guy. Right. I got kind of swept up in it. And everybody was cool though. Everybody was just kind of standing around, but it was really, really tight. There was a lot of people, so you're kind of just like crunched up. And then out of the blue, without warning them, there was like a police line up front, and the cops just started beating people. No warning, not like, hey, you have to go. No like announcement was given. They just like bam, 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 just started beating people. And the crowd behind me surged. Now, 2-3 weeks before January 6th, I had broken my arm and my ribs. So I had a foundation wall collapse on me in the basement of the bar. Right. So as soon as that crowd surged and smashed, it was like being in a trash compactor, and I was in so much pain. And that went on for a good minute or two. And so at some point, I just started screaming for people to I was like, push, 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 you know, like, and so they used that against me super hard.
But they were beating people on the way out, like with nightsticks, or just like,
no, not with nightstick. They just started punching. Like, well, I didn't figure this out until later when I watched the body camera footage. But like, they just like out of the blue just started beating people, just like snatched people up and just started punching them at the front. But there's like 12 cops trying to push like 500 people through like a narrow doorway. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. Like, there's no, you weren't gonna win. So. Yeah. They just started punching and pushing, and like then the crowd was like, fuck that, and started pushing them back. And so that's when I got crushed, because the people behind us that started shoving us forward, and then the cops were, so it was like a trash compactor, and we were like caught in the middle of it.
Man, in that situation, I would think like, dude, I'm probably gonna die here, man. Like,
I was in so much pain. Like, I'm on video for like a minute or two just screaming and like, I can't breathe, and like it was bad.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
So my co-defendant, Donovan Crowell, he's pinned up again. We're pinned up like this. And he looks at me, he's like, Cap, that was my nickname, Cap. He's like, Cap, I didn't come here to tangle with cops. I said, yeah, me either, but like, I can't move. And he's like, I can't move either. And so we just kind of like got smushed. Eventually the cops pulled out pepper spray and they started pepper spraying the crowd. Like they like climbed up top and started just raining the pepper spray on the entire crowd. And then as soon as like we could get out, we ran. And then we kind of just staggered back into the rotunda. I started going down some stairs, and they were like, okay. And I was like, well, I got to find my friend. They're like, okay, no problem. And then I came back, and they're like, no, go back in there, which was the rotunda. And that's when people started coming out of that hallway. They were just like kind of throwing up, and they were sick. And so one of my co-defendants, William Isaacs, he had gotten pepper sprayed really bad, and he had asthma, so we were waiting for him to recover. And we're just kind of hanging out, talking with protesters, just like waiting for him to recover. And well, this they used against me too. I was standing there looking, and I see a guy walk by smoking a joint. And I'm like, I'm tracking him. I'm like, oh, and I zoom over to him, and I was like, hey, dude, can I take a hit off that? And he's like, it's not tobacco, right? And I was like, I know. That's like, this. When am I gonna have a chance to do this? And so, like, I took a hit, whatever, and I went back, and we're just kind of hanging out, talking with protesters, and that's when Isaac started taking a turn for the worse. Like, he started wheezing real bad, and he started like he wasn't doing well. I was like, oh shit, this kid is having a problem. So I put him on my shoulders and I dragged him over to a cop and I said, hey, this kid is having a real bad issue. I need to get him out of here. How do I get out of here? And so the cop was real nice. He's like, yeah, sure. You just go this way. And he pointed me to the exit. And so I dragged him out of the Capitol building. And as soon as we got out, there was like a little spot and they had some riot cops there and the crowd was still super thick. Everybody was going in still and having their time. And so we set up like a little triage area and we started treating patients because people from that hallway started coming out to us and people saw I have like medic stuff all over my helmet. So like people saw that I was a medic and they just started bringing us people. So we started doing triage on who needed it the most. So I just started jumping in and treating patients. All the Oath Keepers did. And then
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, there's one guy who was like half unconscious, like he was like unresponsive, but like he was kind of like tottering back and forth. I was like, oh, this guy's in real trouble. So I put him on my shoulders and I dragged him to the ambulance to get him, oxygen and stuff, which didn't end up happening. There was no medics there, but by the time we got him down there, I helped him out and he ended up recovering. But I gave him an inhaler. Somebody in the crowd handed me an albuterol inhaler, so I'm sitting there administering it to him until he recovered.
Damn, so it was just total chaos, huh? I mean, at that point.
At that point, it was chaos. People, when I finished helping him, I dropped him off at the ambulances. I came back and people were still like, hey, let's go, pushing people to go back inside. I was like, screw that. Like, I know what's in there. Like, there's no joy in there at this point. Like, the cops don't want us there. We're not going. It was about that time that my phone buzzed and it was said that like the curfew order was in place. And I was like, okay, so I went to Kelly. He was the Florida Oath Keeper leader, Kelly Meggs. I was like, hey, dude, what's the deal? Like, what we got going on here? And he's like, well, like, it's the people's house. We're here. What did he say? Something about like, this is our castle or something. And I was like, okay. I was like, yeah, but like there's a curfew order. He's like, oh shit. Okay, really? I was like, yeah. And I was like, I can't find my buddies. Like, because one of the people we came with is like a 72-year-old man. I was like, he's not here. I need to find him. He's like, okay, it's cool. Like, like we can protest every day if we have to. I mean, not us personally, but like, the crowd. Yeah. So I was like, okay. So we just went and we left. That was it. We went and found our guy and we left. Metropolitan Police stopped us on our way back to our vehicle because they seen all the gear. We had helmets and body armor and stuff. And they're like, hey, what's up with all this? We explained it. We showed them our credentials and stuff. And we're like, hey, we're just here for security detail. Like, it's just standard equipment. And they're like, okay, no problem. They patted us down. I gave them a fist bump and I said, God bless you. Thank you for your service. And they let us go.
So
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, did they show any of that in court, like you helping people?
Well, we did.
I'm sorry.
We did. They didn't show any of it, but we showed it.
Oh, okay. And they didn't have any like, oh, you were at least doing something positive at the end.
Well, that's exactly what we ended up showing. So like Kelly Meggs and Connie Meggs and Joseph Hackett, Kenneth Harrelson, they actually rescued Officer Harry Dunn on camera. And then on the way out, Kelly Meggs actually started helping Capitol Police by like grabbing protesters and pushing them out of the Capitol building while the cops just stood there and let them do their job. He was doing their job for them. And like one protester started screaming in his face and like getting in it. Like, he's like, look, dude, the cops don't want us here. We got to go. And so like all this was captured on video. So they had their little narrative, but we were dismantling it every step of the way. Like, dude, we have like contracts and we did Secret Service work or background checks and things. So it was really, and every single one of us in the Oath Keeper 1 trial, me, Stuart Rhodes, Kelly Meggs, Kenneth Harrelson, all of us were acquitted, found not guilty on numerous charges. which should speak volumes, frankly, to the American people. Like, wait a minute, you said that they did all these terrible things. You charged them with crimes that they were found not guilty of. I mean, by its very nature, the word acquittal, like, should mean in the dictionary, it should mean like to be accused of a crime you didn't do, right? And the jury had to found you not, like, but really we should have never gone to trial on those charges. We didn't do it. I was charged with seditious conspiracy and destruction of government property. Like, what property? Like, they said the door was damaged, but that happened like almost 30 minutes before we got there. We were half a mile away. We were between the White House when the door was damaged on Pennsylvania and the Capitol building. Like, we're like half a mile away or more. So it's really crazy that they charged me with destruction of a door at a building I wasn't even at.
Yeah, that's insane. And just for the people that don't know what that is, I heard you explain it on one of the podcasts that you were on. Can you explain seditious conspiracy and what it really means, and where I know you explained where it actually happened at one point and nobody did nothing about it for the audience?
Yeah, sure. So seditious conspiracy has 4 clauses. It's either to attempt to overthrow the United States government, to declare war on the United States government, to seize and hold property of the United States government, or use any other force against the US government, which is very vague, which is the clause that they used. They couldn't say declare war because that didn't happen, obviously. They can't say that we tried to overthrow the government because we didn't do anything violent. We didn't have weapons or anything. None of the clauses worked, but they used any other force as like this vague, like defined force. They're like, so they run, when they do this in court, this is why lawyers suck.
Agreed.
Right. They'll take a word and they'll push it through a dictionary, through a thesaurus, and through a different dictionary in order to manipulate this word to get the outcome they're looking for. And this is how they do statutory law. They'll take Black's Law dictionary and they'll filter it through a thesaurus and then through Webster's dictionary, and that's how they get their precious narrative. So, like, for instance, when they charged us with obstruction of an official proceeding, one of the key requirements of that is you have to act corruptly. Now, to you and I, like, corruption is like what Joe Biden does every day, right? Like, it's quid pro quo. Like, okay, well, if you just, fire the prosecutor that's investigating my son, I'll give you your $1 billion. Well, that's corruption. But they tried to say that we came to the Capitol with corrupt intent. So where's the quid pro quo? Well, they took the word corruption and they ran it through the dictionary, through the thesaurus, through Black's Law dictionary, and they came out with the word evil. They're like, well, a corrupt soul could be like an evil soul. So they literally in court accused us of being evil and said that's because we're evil that we violated this statute. And we went to trial with that, and we're all found guilty on that. Like, really? Like, I don't know if you can pick it up, but I'm not an evil person. Like, I'm really not.
No, every J6er I've interviewed, you'll be my fifth one. All cool people, all really nice, and that's why we started to do this, just to get their story heard and let people know, like, these are not the animals that you saw on TV, the way they portrayed y'all. And if there's one thing the left that's good at, and there's one thing they're good at, it's fucking toying with words and doing wordplay with words. I mean, undocumented, right? I mean, it's illegal. I'm sorry, you're an illegal. Gender affirming care, when they're talking about, like, with the kids, it's like, no, you're chopping off body parts of children
Which, yeah, I'm super against that. Yeah, right.
It's terrible. And it's like, they label all these things and they make them sound pretty, and then in reality, it's just terrible. Like, it's terrible policy, and it's always, like, the left is really good at that, and they can make something sound so nice, and then you really dig into it.
Right.
You're evil.
Like, well, look at, like, like they call it reproductive health care. No, you're killing a baby.
There's another one. Yeah, like reproductive rights. It's like, just say you want to kill.
But you're not reproducing. It's the opposite.
It's silly. They do that quite a bit. And that's unfortunate that happened to you. And I know you put a good example about during the Chaz, right? Like that was an actual.
Yeah, now that's an actual seditious conspiracy because they literally seized property of the United States government, used force to keep the cops out, set up armed checkpoints,
Yeah.
and said, well, this is not America anymore. This is Chaz Chop, and we live here now. This is ours. And they literally had like entire buildings of people that they were essentially holding hostages, small businesses they were holding hostages, you know, and the police, anytime they came out, like they would just stand there with rifles and be like, no, you're not coming in here. That is the literal definition of a seditious conspiracy. Being forced against the government. Okay, well, what about the federal courthouse in Portland, where they laid siege to it for 90 days or whatever it was, and they were throwing fireworks at the police and trying to burn the building down with officers inside?
Yes.
It seems more like a seditious conspiracy. You came with intent to do that, and then you did do that.
Now, Jessica, that was the summer of love. Let's not try. I'm just fucking with you. But yes, and it's true. I mean, the leader of Chaz, I forgot that dude's name. Maybe you.
Simone, Raz Simone.
Yeah, he was literally opening the trunk of his vehicle and
passing out rifles.
AR-15s to people, like without. I mean, that's.
Who are you? Like, here, have a rifle. It's free.
Yeah,
like,
here you go. Go fucking do some terrorist shit. Like, and you're not. I mean, they could like preach to us about we need bigger background checks and all this. Like, I mean, if anybody's ever bought a gun, you do a background check already. I mean, come on. You could tell people never bought a gun that say all these things. And then on top of that, these motherfuckers are like literally giving children, like, you don't even know they're 60s.
Right.
And that's fine though, you know, because they're fighting the revolution, man. You know, summer of love, it's all good times. No, it was a terroristic fucking act that they did. They took over a piece of land in America and said nobody's gonna come in or out of here. And yeah, and they already had reports of people being raped, all kinds of stuff. And it's like, dude, you let this happen. You know, this is you, because your fucking terrible mayors and governors were just like, whatever, man. Like, I'm just gonna let it play out. And people memory hole all that shit. And it was like, dude, it was terrible.
Yeah, they do. You know what's another one that I was involved in directly was Grandmaster Jay and the Not Fucking Around Coalition took Louisville by force. And so we went out there. I was out there that day. And they were like, yeah, if these officers aren't indicted, we're going to hold the entire city and we're not going to let it go. Like, you're threatening to hold an entire city hostage. And I mean, he ended up getting arrested later for pointing a weapon at a federal officer. He ended up getting charged. But all them other people that were there, nothing. When we were there, the day we were there, they accidentally had an accidental discharge and like wounded 3 of their own people because their trigger discipline was like terrible and they're walking around with no safeties on. I mean, it was crazy when you see that. Like, when we were going there, like, okay, this is for real.
Maybe they hung out with Alec Baldwin or something. That's crazy.
Robert De Niro, yeah, you know.
But that's insane. So I do want to get to how was it when you got arrested? Did you just get a subpoena, or did they come and raid you, or was it like that I've heard like they basically went in, you know, balls to the wall?
Yeah, basically, they went balls to the wall. I wasn't there. So after January 6th, I was a little sketched out. Like the day after, I was like, ooh, they do not like this. They're talking big shit. But, you know, I ended up kind of chilling out. I'm like, you know, I didn't hurt anybody. I didn't threaten anybody. You know, I was stopping vandalism. I was helping hurt people. I was like, they don't care about me. But then, like, maybe a week and a half later, the media started showing up and they started beating down my door. They doxed me. And then they put all my information out there. And as soon as that happened, it was on. And so, like, Wolf Blitzer came out to my bar and everything. Everybody wanted a piece of me. And so I was like, screw this. So, like, I freaked out. And I was like, okay. I told my husband, I was like, look, if the feds come or if the sheriffs show up or whatever, here's all of my equipment. Here's my phone. Give them the passwords. I literally wrote the passwords down and said, just give them everything. Just help them however they want. If they need me, I'll come back and I'll turn myself in. We went and stayed with some friends, and that's when the raid happened. Like, it was 4 days after I left. A joint terrorism task force showed up. They shot out the windows of my house. threw flashbangs in every room, had drones, tanks.
Ow.
Yeah, my town only has 300 people in it, and there was probably about 300 feds there. So it's a little town called Woodstock, Ohio. I jokingly called it the War of Woodstock because they showed up, like made this big show of force with a joint terrorism task force, and like I wasn't even there. And then when I got all my discovery later, they knew I wasn't there. They wanted their big show, and they didn't know where I went. So like, well, I guess it's go time. We'll just make our big show. And as soon as that happened, my fiance, they dragged him out of the house through the snow, half naked, handcuffed, and they started questioning him, like, where's Jessica? And he was like, okay, well, I'll call her, whatever. And as soon as he called me, I was like, okay, I'm on my way. I'll come turn myself in. And so I turned myself into the police station. I drove all the way. I was in Virginia at the time, and my bar was in Ohio. So I drove 10 hours back and turned myself into the authorities.
Man, that must have been a long drive. So, man.
It's like with this knot in your gut, like the whole time, like,
Yeah.
shit.
I could imagine. And they
Yeah.
gave you the David Koresh Waco, Texas treatment, huh? They weren't fucking around.
Yeah.
Well, you gave those people of your little town a story to tell for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. You're probably still telling that story. Not a lot happens there.
Oh, for sure. So did they also drag you around from city to city, taking you on Con Air, like kind of trying to, just really tire you out? Is that the case with you as well?
Yeah, diesel therapy. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. I went from Montgomery County Jail, which is where I was initially booked, to Butler County Jail. I was pretty badly mistreated there. Then I went to the Oklahoma Transfer Center, and then to Northern Neck Regional Jail, and then to the DC Gulag.
Damn, that's tough. Were you treated any like different from other inmates in the DC jail? And how did that go with your time?
I was so not getting personal, but like I've had some surgery downstairs. So, but they didn't know how to deal with me. Because I've been in transition so long, but at the same time, like there was a lot of hate towards January 6th. I was booked into the DC jail on February 10th. So you're talking about a month and 4 days after January 6th. So a lot of hate. Like it was on every news channel every single night, and so they ended up sticking me in a I mean, like I don't know. I mean, I don't think I look particularly like I belong there, but they put me in there anyway. And so they put me in with the other J6 guys.
Oh, okay. And like, were you also in solitary confinement as well for the majority of that?
It was, yeah, we were in solitary confinement for most of a year.
Damn. So I always ask because that's just crazy to me. Very inhumane treatment in America, and people should know the level that they went through to kind of really punish you guys and send a message. How did you have any reading material when you were in solitary confinement, or how did that go? Or you just
I mean, for the first, 2 months or so, you have nothing. So whenever you come into a place, you're stripped down. That they give you what's called a fish kit. It's like just some basic hygiene items, bar of soap that's like this thin and it's like that big. It's like not really a bar of soap. A little toothbrush about that long. Like it's got like this little paddle on it, and you have to stick your hands in your mouth to brush your teeth, basically, and like a tooth gel. It's not toothpaste, it's tooth gel, and stuff like that. It's just really bad. And then basically your uniform and your mat, and that's it. And then it's just like the door closes, and that's where you are now. Eventually, you start building things up. You're allowed to get books sent in. So my fiance was sending me books. And it got better with time. I wrote a lot. I wrote a whole lot. I wrote books when I was in there. I've written 2 books since I was incarcerated. Plus, they're not for sale yet. The one is actually available for online. If you go to http / whatever, the number 4 ASHLI for Ashley.com / tale. that's my entire J6 story is available there, including my time incarcerated.
I will add that on. I'll link it. And one question: is there any way I could get a signed copy? I will buy it.
Sure.
Okay, I would love a signed copy. I'm sure my friend I do it with, Chris, would love one too. We'll definitely buy that, and I'll link it. I want a lot of
It's
people
not for
to.
sale. I mean, it's free, but
Oh, really? Nah.
yeah.
Well, whenever you start selling them, let me know. I'll be one of the first ones to buy it. I'll even pay extra for a signed copy, and definitely get some people to go and purchase that. But if it's for free, that's cool too. Um,
Yeah.
so, what would you say got you through those times of being just by yourself like that, especially knowing like my fiance's out there, who knows what he's doing? Not in that kind of way, but like
Sure.
there's a lot of like emotions and things going through your mind. What got you through? What would you say got you through?
I don't know. The guys, really. It was a really dark time. I wasn't sleeping well. I did not adjust well. So I was sleeping like 3 hours a night basically for months. And so, like, it was like so stressful that like gobs of hair are falling out, like you just have dry heaves. You just start dry heaving or you go into a panic attack. Um, at one point, like I kind of started hearing things. So like I kept hearing a cappella music, like, like men singing in harmony, like through the vents. And like I was like, okay, that's kind of nice. And then like after a while, it just kept going on and on. I was like, man, fuck this shit. And so like I thought it was like somebody was playing some kind of music on a computer in like their office or something. And so I started screaming through the vents. I was like, shut this fucking music off. I hate this. Like, and so like they're like a couple of the guys are like, what are you yelling at? I was like, this fucking, like, you don't hear this? And they're like, Jess, there's no music. I'm like, ooh, that's not good. Like,
You're
yeah,
fucking over here. You're over here hearing
right.
shit
I'm
too.
not like low key hearing shit. Like,
Oh man, I don't even. I to be honest, I mean, I think I would be going a little insane myself, man. That's a long time, 23 hours a day. I
guards were super hostile. Like, they're, like, fuck these honky motherfuckers. You Trumper, like, he be trumping, like, just, they're
you're
very hostile. So, like, it was just like, never mind your environment being bad. Like, you've got the guards who, like, viscerally hate you. Like,
Yeah, that's just evil, man. I there's no excuse for that. Doing that to your fellow man over something, especially like I can understand if you were like out there killing kids or something, like like those people are, yeah, fuck you. But I mean, something's like what you were helping people and other people were like walking through the Capitol. It wasn't, it like no need for that kind of treatment on another human being for such a. I mean, yeah, I get it. He broke the law by going in there, but it was open, so I also see that. Like, if it's open, that's entrapment, right? I mean, that's the way I see it. But it's like, yeah, when the cops are beating people, what are you supposed to do? Just take it and die there? You gotta get out, and that's really
right.
messed up. And
Well,
that's
another
yeah,
thing, I mean, this happens like all the time. The left goes and they storm the Capitol all the time, right? Like in 2018, I think it was September of 2018, or maybe even 2019, the Kavanaugh confirmation hearing, they stormed the Capitol and they were spitting on senators and they were like punching the cops. And the worst thing that came out of it, there's this guy named Ty Berry. He had stormed the Capitol 2 previous times and was on probation and was told not to go to the Capitol. And he did it anyway. Um, and he had a tent pole, excuse me, and he was beating on an FBI agent with it. And he got time served, which was 12 hours, and he got a $10 fine. And they had to drag him. He was kicking and breaking furniture, and they had to drag him bodily, like kicking and screaming and squirming out of the Capitol building and take him out.
two-tier system, man. That's what that is. We have a two-tier system, and if you're on the right, you're gonna get fucked. You're on the left, you're gonna get some fucking sympathy and
Right.
just lenient sentence, and that's something we gotta get rid of, man. You gotta have the law equally distributed amongst the citizens. You can't have a civil society that works that way. That's just gonna crumble. I do want to say, I know Marjorie Taylor Greene visited the jails quite a bit. She was one of the most vocal ones out of the politicians I saw that was really kind of trying to get the attention at the people in the J6 for the inhumane treatment that y'all were receiving. Did you ever get to meet her, or
Okay.
oh, you got to meet her? You lucky
Yeah.
bastard.
So yeah, they had been trying to come and like, okay, so going back before all the Marjorie Taylor Greene stuff, so the warden was going on Twitter and was talking about like Trump's like a bitch and all this stuff and going off, right? And like, talking about like these dirty insurrectionists. Like you're the warden and you have J6ers in your custody. You can't think like that. So Marjorie Taylor Greene ended up finding these tweets. Her name is Warden Landerkin. Which she's a character. She's a white Muslim lesbian, so that's different.
Check those boxes.
Right, boxes. So she was going out and she had like little pictures of like Trump in like diapers crying on the back of her car. And so Marjorie Taylor Greene found out about all this stuff. And so she started digging into her. She heard about the mistreatment of us in the jail and like how the guards were, they had top, what we call in the military top cover, right? Like they were protected. They could do whatever they wanted to us without repercussions. Like it was just a green light, go. And so Marjorie Taylor Greene found out about it. And so she started investigating her and exposed her in Congress. Like, hey, look, this warden lady, she's like real bad news and she's in charge of all these January 6 people and they're being mistreated. And so her and Louis Gohmert and Matt Gaetz, Paul Gosar, they kept trying to come down to the jail and Warden Landerkin was locking them out and like making faces at her through the door and all sorts of stuff. Like, but they were on the oversight committee for prisoner treatment in federal facilities. So it's literally their responsibility to come check on us. Like that's part of their duties. So they had no right to deny them access. And so they kept coming out and they eventually were given like a 15-minute notice, like, okay, you can come today, but you have to come right now. And so they had to like hop in their SUVs and haul ass across town to come down to visit us. And so they came in and the jail gave them this like royal treatment. It took them up to the juvie section of the jail where there's couches and flat screen TVs and stuff. And they're like showing them like the program. This is the library, but it's closed because of COVID. And they gave them this cutesy tour of the jail. And Marjorie Taylor Greene's like, I came here to see the January 6 people. Where are they? Take me to them. And they're like, they like locked her in a room for a while, like in a hallway. And like, she said the whole place stunk. I mean, like when you walk in the DC jail, the place stinks of two things. It smells like weed and it smells like burning toilet paper because they're smoking K2. And so like the whole place just reeks of drugs. And so she's like, and piss and like, yeah, it's bad. So she's like, yeah, like they left me in this like dark room. Anyway, they finally ended up bringing her in to us and we're all standing there and like, I didn't think we would ever meet them. I was like, at best, they're going to take them to a control center with like cameras and they're going to be like, see, there they are. You saw the January 6 people on camera. Right? Like I figured that's what was going to happen, but they ended up bringing them in and like, I was just like, oh, it's actually them. They got them here. And so I was like, USA, USA. We all started chanting. It was cool. It was amazing. And we just like broke out into applause. And like, I could tell they were thoroughly humbled. They did not expect that kind of welcome from us. I figured, they probably figured we would just be like despondent or like, I don't know. But anyway, we gave him the royal treatment. We kind of like circled up around him and we prayed for America and we talked to him at length, like about all the mistreatment and a lot of the truth of what January 6th was. Like, that was back in, I want to say November of 2021 that we actually got to meet them.
That's awesome. And you met Matt Gaetz as well?
No, Matt Gaetz, because they only gave him 15 minutes to get there, like half the congressional entourage didn't make it. So the only two that made it was Marjorie Taylor Greene and Louis Gohmert.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I remember Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'll give her credit for that. She was really vocal about the mistreatment.
She's so nice. She's like teensy tiny. She's like, I don't know, she like comes up to my like armpits, but like she is like full of fire. Like I don't understand how such a tiny little woman has so much passion and drive. She's so amazing. I love Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, I like her too, and they really drag her through the mud, man. They go out of their way to just make her look like one of the worst people in the world. So yeah, and you were sentenced to 8.5 years. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. I did 4 years and 3 days.
Wow. So you were in there for a long time, man. That's a lot of life taken away from you for walking in the building.
And I lost everything. We lost the bar, our home. I lost my car, furniture, literally everything. We're rebuilding right now. You can't tell right now, but this is a completely empty apartment. I have nothing. I'm working on it.
Yeah, well, you need to get those books out so we can buy them.
Right?
I'm telling you, I'll buy one, and I want a signed copy. I'm definitely on board with that. I will purchase any books that you throw out there. I wanna read them and kind of get your insight. Just by you talking to me right now, I could tell. I mean, it's such a traumatic experience. Do you feel like you have like any kind of PTSD of that, or no?
Severe PT. I jokingly call it KTSD because the keys on the cops, they walk around with their keys and a jingle,
Oh,
jingle, jingle everywhere. So I call it KTSD. But yeah, no, nightmares, can't sleep, insomnia. It runs the gamut.
so you're still having like sleeping issues?
Big time.
And that started from when they first raided your home, or from the actual January 6th day?
Ever since I got arrested, really. I mean,
Mm. Yeah, that's a lot to go through, man. Some people, like, they tell me that's crazy to me. 4 years, man, 4 years. And did you get released you got released before the whole pardon situation? Is that correct?
correct. I was one of the 14 that was not pardoned. So President Trump didn't pardon the Oath Keepers. He just commuted our sentences. Um, I have my suspicions on why he did that. I think he's being smart, but I'm still holding out for a pardon. I'm still hopeful that I will get one.
Mm. Yeah,
But
I hope so.
I was actually in the SHU at the time, which is the special housing unit. It's where they put like problem inmates. It's like solitary confinement, but you have a cellmate. Uh, yeah, that was a whole nother situation. I knew the pardons were coming, like President Trump was talking about it all the time. He's like, yeah, I'm going to let him out in the first 9 minutes. So I was excited. I had a whole meal planned for the inauguration. I had booked the TV room so I could watch the inauguration, have this whole meal. Like, we were all going to cook. Like, all the girls, I don't think you understand, in prison, like, they love Trump. They are huge Trump people. So, like, all the girls were like, yeah, we're going to watch the inauguration. We're going to have this huge banquet and all this stuff, right? And so I knew that the pardon was coming. Like, it was just a matter of time. So, uh, I was going to make that my going away party, really, more or less, also.
So you watched the inauguration while in the gulag, huh?
I wish. I watched Biden's inauguration in the gulag.
Oh, so when did you get released from
But
prison?
yeah, so I was in the SHU. Like, it's like I said, it's like solitary confinement, basically. It's the hole. They threw me in the hole. So the Friday before, I was trying to get my medical records, and like one of the lady who I was trying to get them from, she was like, "What you need them for? What you need your medical records for?" And I was like, "Well, I'm probably leaving next week, so I need to make sure I have them before I go because I've got, being a trans woman, I've got some serious, like especially at post-op, like I've got serious medical needs that need to be met. Like I can't just go off my meds, like I'm on them for life." I was like, "I need these medications." And I need my chronic care information. So she's like, "Okay, well, why you think you leaving for?" I was like, "Okay, well, like, look, I'm a January 6th person. President Trump said it." She's like, "Oh, he ain't gonna pardon you. You ain't going nowhere. You're just gonna have to wait till next week." I said, "Ma'am, there's probably not gonna be a next week. Like, I was in the military. All I want to do is just be prepared, just in case." And she's like, "Oh, you're a veteran, huh?" She's like, "Well, who else in here is a veteran? Raise your hands." And the one girl's like, "I'm a street veteran." She's like, "See, there's a veteran." She's like, "See, there's a veteran too. So you're just gonna have to wait till next." I was like, "Lady, I fought in Afghanistan. Like, are you comparing me to that? Like, really?" Like, anyway,
Yeah,
so
that's terrible.
yeah,
Exactly. I fought for freedom and to make sure you're safe at home. This bitch is out here probably terrorizing people in the streets.
probably shooting up a block somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, uh, long story short, she was like, "Well, you're gonna have to leave. If you don't leave," I was like, "Lady, it's 8:30. I can't leave. Like, because in prison you can only leave on the hour. So you've got at 8 o'clock they'll open the door, and you've got from 8 o'clock to 8:10 to get where you're going, and then they lock the door, and then you're trapped in there, and then you have to wait till 9 o'clock to leave." So she's like, "Well, you're gonna have to go." She's like, "If you don't go, I'm gonna call the lieutenant." I said, "For starters, it's 8:30. I can't just leave. The door's locked. For second, like, call the lieutenant, please, because everything I just dealt with is completely unacceptable. I'd like to speak to a lieutenant, actually. I need my medical records." And So she called the lieutenant. Lieutenant came flying down. She was like jamming her finger in my face. She's like, you need to do what you're told. If they're telling you to leave, you're going to be out of bounds. I'm going to give you a shot. I'm going to throw you in the hole, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, look, I can't just leave. I explained the situation. She's like, well, you're going to have to go to work. Take your fucking ass to work. She's cussing me out the whole time, this lieutenant. And so I was like, okay. So she lets me out. I was like, actually, can I talk to the captain? Because everything I'm dealing with, this ain't right. She's like, if you go up in the lieutenant corridor, I'm going to fucking throw your ass in the shoe. Watch me. So I was like, okay, fine. So I went to work. And my boss, which is another one of the officers, she knew me. At this point, I've been in prison for 1.5 years, and I've been running the prison library. I teach classes to the inmates. I teach first aid, astronomy. Like I'm a volunteer. Like I am literally like a model inmate. I don't do drugs. I don't have contraband. Like anyway, so I go down there and I'm like in tears. Like like my makeup's running and shit. And she's like, what is wrong? What is wrong? I explained the whole situation. She's like, I'll call the captain. You can go up there. So she calls the captain. Captain has me come up there. And so I go in there and I'm sitting on the bench waiting for the captain to come out. And that lieutenant sees me. She comes flying up. She snatches me up by my arm. She's like, I told your fucking dumbass, you come up here, I'm throwing your ass in the shoe. She's like, stand up, put your hands behind your back. I said, ma'am, I was told to come here. And she's like, I don't give a fuck. Stand up, put your hand behind your back. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm here. Like I was told to be here. I'm going to be here. So she I literally went limp fish on her and just kind of like, she literally is picking me up off the bench physically by my she left bruises all over my arm. And she's picking me up and like another lieutenant comes out and snatches me up and they're both physically picking me up and the captain comes out. She's like, whoa, stop. I told her to come up here. Stop. What's the deal? And so I kind of caught her up and she's like, come talk to me. I'll talk to you at Chow at Mainline. And I said, okay. So I left and that lieutenant is holding open the door for me, right? And she's looking at me real evil, walking by. She's like, get your fucking ass out of here. I said, lady, I ain't cussed at you not one time. I have not raised my voice to you. Don't talk to me like that. And I walked away and I'm walking away and talking to another officer. And as I'm walking away, I see her come flying down the stairs, just running, just flying. And then she body slams me into like a chain link fence. She grabbed me by my head and smashed my face and she handcuffed me and threw me in the shoe. And so that's where I was for the inauguration.
Wow. That's so terrible. I mean, just power trip, scumbag of a lady. Jesus Christ. Sorry that happened to you. And when were you released? Like what day was it when you were released?
So I was there, that happened on a Friday. So it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday was the inauguration. And so like I was waiting around and like there was a clock. I could look out my window slit and I could see there was a clock right there. And as soon as it hit like noon, I'm like, Trump, like chanting at my window and all the girls start beating on their doors. And then it ticked to 12:09. I was like, they're setting me free right now. Cause I don't know, like I had it in my head. He said he was going to set us free in the first 9 minutes. So I was like, yeah, he's doing it right now. Like, but then like hours just went by and hours. And every time a guard would come by, I was like, did you hear anything? They're like, about what? I was like, the inauguration. He's like, I think it went okay. I was like, did they say anything about January 6th? He's like, I don't know, dude. I'm on duty. I don't know. Like,
I did not know you just recently got out like that. I thought you got out and then all this happened. So you're like fresh. Oh,
fresh.
okay. So was it that Monday you got out or was it like later in the week?
Yeah, so it was like 9-10 o'clock at night. I was just like, and I'm sitting there, I'm reading, but like my brain is going 1,000 miles a minute because I'm like, man, because he said he was going to go on a case by case basis. So I was like, man, what if he skips my case? So like I was like freaked out. Like I'm like, you go into a mode, and again, I'm in the hole, so I have nothing to do. Like, so you got nothing but your thoughts. And so I'm in a panic mode, but like 10 o'clock at night, they're like, boom, 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 beat on the door. And I was there like, Watkins. I was like, yes. And they're like, stand up. So like anytime you go in or out of the shoe, they've got a meal slit on the door. Mm-hmm. And you got to stick your arms behind your back and like stuff them through this meal slot. And then they handcuff you and you have to pull them back out. And then they open the door and you have to like back out. And then they escort you. And so they're like, put your hands in a meal slot. So I'm like, okay. And I did it. And they handcuffed me and they pulled me out of my cell. And as soon as they closed the door, she was looking at me. She's like, are you ready? And I was like, I don't know. Like, what do you mean? Am I ready for what? Like, she was like, and she wouldn't say anything. She was like, are you ready right now? And I was like, right now, right now. I was like, I actually hope it's not right now. I don't have a ride. It was like so cold. Like, so Florida got snow that day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I was like, I don't know. Like, if this is what I think it is, like my ride is 2 hours away. She's like, it's not a problem. So she's like, close your eyes. And so she escorted me through. She's like, no peeking. It's like, okay. And I'm like, at this point, my heart is going like, and I'm like, okay. So like I walk in, she's like, okay, open your eyes. And like the lady who does outtake was there. Yeah. So like she was there and she's like, okay, who do you have that can come pick you up? I'm like, like at this point I'm overwhelmed with emotion. I start crying and anyway, I told her and I ended up having to call a friend to get the phone number for the lady because I'm in the shoe. So like I have nothing. Like normally I just go to my contact information and pull it up for you. But here, like I have nothing. And so my friend called and got the phone number and we got them coming. And it was actually Kenny and Angel Harrelson that came and picked me up.
That's an amazing story. I mean, it sucks you have to go through that, but I love like hearing that end part. That's a good ending. You got out. I can imagine if it was me too, I'd be like, I don't give a fuck who picks me up. I just need to get the fuck out of here. Like just get me out
It
of
was
this.
really, really surreal. Actually, if you want, I can send you a video of when I got out. It was
Is it on
surreal.
X?
It might be. It should be. But see, the thing is, I don't really know because during those times I was like still technically on probation, so I wasn't getting on social media myself. I had somebody who was managing myself from social media for me. I hope she posted that video. I probably should go back and look, but
If not, yeah, send me that video. I'll put
it's
it on
not.
here.
Yeah, I'll post it up on X if it's not. I'll go look.
Yeah, I definitely want to put that video at the end. So you're like fresh out. Hopefully things start going your way. I really hope so. I know. Are you still part of the Oath Keepers, or is that kind of
I don't even
dissolved?
think they exist anymore.
They dissolved. I
Probably.
know Stuart Rhodes was the founder, right? I remember seeing some of his videos where they weren't letting people out of the jails, and he was very. There were a lot of people vocal.
Yeah, he was in DC for that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's man. Thankfully, man, Trump won this one, so y'all could be free, and now you can pursue. Are you gonna just before we end? Are you pursuing anything else other than writing books, or are you doing like
Yeah, I'm going to be doing that. I don't want to go into too much, but prison reform initiatives and legislation. I'm working on that. I'm not really sure where I stand on transgender issues. I'm very passionate about fixing a lot of what's been done, but I don't know that I really contribute much to that realm. There's so many voices that are doing all the right things, protecting girls' sports, and a lot has already been done with executive order, but we need legislation for that to make it permanent because these things need to be done.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm very conservative on a lot of those issues. You want to live your life like it worked for me. Like for me, like I would never want anybody to take my rights away or anything, but there's certain things that are just big fat no's, and sports, kids, anything like that is a big no. So I kind of want to help with that realm, but I don't know that I contribute really meaningfully to that conversation. Enough has been done. I also want to do my podcast, which is another thing that I'm really working on. It's actually what this office is for, is I'm going to start doing my podcast and everything here. So
nice. What are you gonna like? What's your thing? What are you gonna tackle? Political stuff or everything?
Political stuff. Yeah, I'm very plugged in politically. So yeah, that's what I want to do. Kind of like a daily kind of show.
That'd be great, man. You gotta send us that. Once you get it out, I'll link it as well. If you have it already, I can link it when I put this up.
Yeah, I don't have anything yet already. I just got the computer a couple days ago. So it's all like, I don't have a mic. I don't have camera. Like right now we're doing this on my phone because that's what I have. But
I got you. Well, once you get everything set up, let us know, and we definitely can plug you in there. And yeah, man, I am very plugged in politically too, getting all this stuff. It's insane. What is your take on before you go? What is your take on the Doge situation?
Oh my
I
God, promises kept, promises made, promises kept. Like, this is so great. This is so good. Like, I'm just like cheering them on, like, go, 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 go. Every single agency. And USAID, that one was like out of the blue. I'd never even heard of USAID. And like now that they peeled back the onion, and you're like, I wonder how much of these like paid provocateurs and Antifa types are actually getting a check through some kind of NGO like that, you know, like.
Yeah, because I love Rand Paul and Ron Paul. Ron Paul was like, they've been talking about USAID for years, and Rand Paul's always tried to like get them and say like, y'all motherfuckers just tell me no. Like, how is that
They
even
took
possible?
the name off the building, like.
Yeah. I did a video too, and I'm like fucking drinking. Cheers, motherfuckers! Look at this shit, and it's like this sad music. It's so good.
Cheers.
And like I said too, it's the same thing. He said he's gonna drain the swamp. The swamp is the deep state. I mean, the people that are unelected, that are spending all our money and fucking spending money against the will of the American people, and also hurting the American people by doing all these
Exactly.
things and these fucking slush funds and all that to silence us and
It's
all
all
that.
money laundering. I literally think it's a money laundering like
It's
operation.
it's the
So you look at
definition of
like
money laundering.
right, you look at like the omnibus packages that they were passing every single year, where they're like, $250 million to Pakistan for gender studies programs. Like, I don't think they're studying gender over in Pakistan. I'm pretty
No,
sure that the slush fund, like you guys are just cutting yourselves a check. So I'm assuming like USAID, a lot of that gets funneled through there. To
oh for
where
sure.
like they'll cut this check to this weird program like that. They'll send it to Pakistan, and really it's some senator's kid that's over there, got some little like suite in an office somewhere, and is just cutting themselves big fat checks and then turning the money around and funnel it back to the senator. I'm pretty sure that's what's happening. If you follow the money, I'm sure it's going to go all sorts of dirty, dark places, and they're all probably right there in the swamp.
Yeah, I mean, it's 100%. That's what's happening. I don't know if you saw that Tucker Carlson and Matt Binns. You got to watch it. It's on YouTube or Rumble. He's been attacking, and I've been following him for a long time on X, and he's been attacking USAID for years, and nobody wants to listen. And it's true. Even he says it. He goes, it's at the point where you could like literally like look at this is what they're doing, and they will just look at it and say like, nah, that's a lie, because they can't even comprehend that the government would spend our money so frivolously in that way. It's almost like they're so brainwashed. They're just like, no, it's not right. And it is funny to see that they're like, and I always tell people this, they wanted to lower the voting age to 16. They were literally trying to fucking lower the voting age, and then now they're like, some of them are 19 and they're children. I don't know where the fuck you're from, but where I'm from, 19, you're not a child. You commit a
Right.
crime,
Well, I
the
mean,
fucking
unless you're in Gaza, in which case, the Gaza Health Ministry will tell you, oh, there's all these kids that are being killed, and they won't tell you a kid is 20 years old and younger.
like they went from the party of like young people and immigrants to like where Elon can be trusted. Why? Because he's an immigrant. He doesn't have our best. Like, oh, now our diversity is our strength. That fucking goes right away, right? All of a sudden. And I forgot who did it. I think it was somebody on Fox News, and she had a perfect analogy for it. I did a video and I put it on Instagram, and I mean the hate that I got. I'm telling you, oh Jesus Christ, crazy hate. And people like, I want you to get doxxed and all kinds of shit. I'm like, dude, are you that mad?
They
Like fuck.
literally like are insane people. I mean, liberalism is a mental disorder. Like
Oh, dude, it's bad. Racism is
somebody
definitely.
on Twitter asked me the other day, they're like, why are all these white liberal women so pissed off? And I was like, they're liberal. Why is water wet? Like, like
but, but it was good, the analogy that she put, and she says it's like your wife going through your phone and the husband getting caught cheating or something, and he just gets mad at her for going through his phone and not really addressing the problem of him cheating.
right.
And I was like, that's a perfect way to put it. And it's like, oh bitch, you went through my phone. Like, you're fucking some other chick. Like, no, but you went through my
Right.
phone, and you just end up arguing about who went through your phone instead of addressing the problem of like
Wow.
you doing something outside of your marriage, right? And that's what it is. It's so stupid. And like I said, the party of young people and immigrant or illegal immigrants. I'm not even gonna say immigrants, because I mean nobody's in. I've never met a conservative that's against immigration, and legal. And they're the party of immigrants, illegal immigrants, and young people. You can't trust immigrants, and young people are children, and they can't be trusted. But you will chop the breast off and the penis off of a 14-year-old if they ask you to, especially in Minnesota, where what's his name, Tampon Tim was at, he will take your kids away from you. He had legislation saying that, and it's like, bro,
I believe it.
you are insane that you're seeing this, and then you're just getting mad at Elon Musk. All he's doing is showing you, he's showing you this is what's happening. I'm gonna show it to Trump. Trump's gonna fucking do something about it, and people are pissed off, and then they're like, well, people just want change for change. It's like, no, so you'd rather just have status quo, like let's just let the government overspend and on stupid shit that doesn't really like it's no use. And I know a lot of ex-military like yourself, and I know quite a bit, and they've all told me military spending is outrageous. I mean, it's like, yeah, we don't even need stuff sometimes, and they're like, we gotta spend it. It's there, we have to. And
Right.
so, yeah, and I'm sure you know a lot about that, being a veteran. And it's just like he's just exposing it all. That's all he's doing, and he's getting just arrows thrown at him at all corners. Everybody's sick.
Right. Well, all of it is wasteful. Like, look at diesel therapy. So I literally had a marshal. I was talking about this on X just a day or two ago. And like one of the marshals, like we asked, like, why do we keep getting moved here and here? And he's like, imagine there's a big dollar sign above your head. Every time we move you somewhere, that dollar sign just keeps getting bigger and bigger. That's how we make our money. And we're like, so you're going to move me from shitty jail to shitty jail over and over, like, which is miserable. Like you go in with nothing and you can't buy a commissary and stuff because you're not there long enough. And so like, it's a miserable experience and they're just doing it to make money. Like,
yeah, it's all about
or overtime, because if their overtime gets inflated, like, oh, I've got to fly all these inmates, like, but you don't have to. Like, you're just shuffling us around to make money because you want to pay overtime to yourself. Like, that's crazy. Like, the BOP is fraught with waste. Like, that's the one thing that I'm really like, I want prison reform. Doge has got to get into the Bureau of Prisons. They've got to, because they're going to find like so much embezzlement. So every inmate, they give you a check for $44,000 per year for every inmate in your facility. Well, there's almost 1,000 girls in my prison. Like, that's $44 million. The facility has been around since 1939. The buildings are falling apart and they're not being repaired. We have almost no programs. All our food, it literally is stamped with not for human consumption. It has bugs and feces in it, like rat feces in it. And don't take my word for it. I've got an inspector general report that can prove it. The medical, like my friend Miss Virginia was having a stroke and one half of her face was like literally sagging. Her eye stopped blinking. She couldn't move her arm. She had like a legit stroke. And they're like, no, just go buy some milk and magnesia on commissary and come back next week. They sent her home. She has a stroke for the entire weekend. She's there Monday morning. She's still having a stroke. And they're like, it might be a little bit of a stroke. Maybe we should call an ambulance. That's the medical care that they're giving in our prisons. They almost destroyed my kidneys playing gender medicine. They had no idea what they were doing. Like, it's a joke. They're embezzling the money.
Yeah,
period. There's no other way to say it.
They're getting first world fucking money with third world treatment of the inmates. I hope that you really get more involved in that, since you have like a firsthand experience with all that, and you can like literally talk about it with actual knowledge on the situation and living through all that.
I don't want to spoil too much, but let's just say that I'm involved.
That's awesome, and I hope you continue to be involved. I hope this a lot more things start going your way, and definitely, I mean, let us know about your podcast or everything else that's going on that you're into, and especially with the books. I mean, we will get 3 copies automatically with us, and then we'll tell everybody listening to get some of those books buy from you, so you could get more on your feet.
If you want, when I get to publishing, I'll come back on and I'll do a little plug for them.
Ah, for sure, yeah, definitely.
I'll keep you updated on everything that's going on.
And anytime that you want to like have us on or do some just talk shit about whatever is going on politically, I'm all for that. Keep in touch, and I would love to converse more and kind of get in your mind more and see what your thoughts are on certain political topics that are going on, especially with the prison stuff. That would be really interesting to hear your side of the story with those things.
And stay tuned, because it's going to be a big week for me. There's a lot going on this week. Big things going on. I don't know. It's just things are going on. It might be somewhere. So just stay tuned.
Okay. Are you? Can I say?
You can guess.
Are you talking about the CPAC? Are you talking about
Just follow,
Seditious?
just follow me on X. I'll be there. You got my X, right?
Yeah, Mike
It
was
says
telling me.
Jessica Watkins, but instead of an E, it's the letter 6. So it's like J6, but it's my name, Jessica Watkins.
Okay, I will put your X on here as well. But that's awesome because Mike, I've heard a lot of J6ers are meeting up out there. So I hope y'all have a good time. I hope you get to meet all the motherfuckers, the cool people. Don Bangino, I'm sure all those people are gonna be out there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure Crowder's gonna be out there, but I don't know if you announced it. But yeah,
Everybody
man,
who's anybody's probably going to be there.
yeah, exactly. I know Tim Pool said he was gonna be out there. So I hope you fucking get to meet some people, network, and get your podcast going, man. That's gonna be sick as fuck. Damn, you're lucky. I wish I could go, man. That sucks. But yeah, enjoy your time out there, and we will definitely love to see the progress of your pod and your books coming out. And I appreciate your time, everybody. This is Jessica Watkins, veteran J6er, good person. Obviously saving lives during that whole debacle, and actually, getting the word across with prison reforms. Hopefully, go support her on X. Go support her when she gets her podcast up. And got nothing but praise for you, and I hope the best for you. Get on your feet and get to go and get to work and make some changes.
Will do, brother. Thank you for having me.
All right, y'all have a good one. See you, Jessica.
See ya.
Here comes Jessica and Casey. Finally released.
Oh, let me get that bad. 1 a.m.
1 a.m. January 21st. Hey, girl! Hey, everybody.
How you doing? Good. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. What's up, Ken? You look great. Oh, my God. You all right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Say hi.
Hi, everyone.
I'm going to send this to Montana.
Oh, yeah, Montana, I love you so much. I'm free. Hard to believe. Oh, yeah, it's all fine. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're all right.
This is going on the camera chat.
Oh, God bless you all. I love you all so much. God bless America.
You ready to
Still got some work to do.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, some nice sleep.
Lots more.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm so excited. This feels not real. This is crazy.
Let's get out this parking lot.
4 years.